like.
Angie, can I get a comment from you on the changes to the intake, the records for the animal shelter?
No comment, thank you.
I just want to know how it changes the intake reports for purposes of what
All of our
prior
records are
people had
on
to
in
do.
Shelter Love, as Michelle indicated, so. Yep.
So what does it change?
No further
prior. Okay, thank you.
Well, I mean, how much back and forth do we want to have? And
You probably don't want to have any, as I can tell, but my question, I think, is a legitimate question. The citizens have an interest in these records. I'm the only citizen here that's not getting a government paycheck. I appreciate you allowing me to ask questions. I asked politely before the meeting began if that was going to be permitted. I don't know if when you guys sit here and you're all just government people, if you ponder that in today's world, reducing retention of things is problematic. And giving what is the cost? See, in the world that I came from, there would have been analysis of what is really the cost of retaining them permanently versus allowing them to be deleted. Frankly, typically it takes more effort to delete them. It takes more cost because it's easier just to retain stuff nowadays when, terabytes of data are dollars.
Were there any other questions for the prosecutor's schedule? No. All right, we have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
It's Monday, June 9th, and I'm standing in front of the Records Management Division of Clermont County Government. I was just here for a Clermont County Records Commission meeting led by Michele Snyder, the person in charge of public records retention for Clermont County. In the meeting, they were kind enough to let me ask some questions on each of their agenda topics. I did on a few. I'm going to play a couple of those interchanges. One of the things that bothers me a lot is when government is reducing record retention and getting rid of records or providing backdoor ways that individual office holders can delete or remove records. And there were some examples of that I found with the commissioners and with the prosecutor's office. Other areas, I just saw a lot of reduction in retention, which I don't think we should be seeing in 2025. If anything, we should retain records for longer. I want to give kudos to the sheriff's office. It appeared that the things that were on the retention schedule for them were all expansions of records retentions from things being part of a case file to being permanent. So I'm going to play a few clips of the meeting. Also, Michele Snyder was kind enough to take me on a little tour of some of the public per se areas of the record center where you can come and do research and you can get records from some of the old printed records from the county. One of the agenda topics in the meeting were some changes to the record retention schedule for the animal shelter. I tried to ask Angie Livesay about them. She refused to answer any questions. You'll see that. I then asked Claire Corcoran about them, and she was more accommodating. She was trying to sign papers, so I was asking her while she was signing papers to try to get clarification on what appeared to be a reduction in animal shelter reporting as it related particularly to weekly intake and adopt out and transfer out reporting that had been previously required of private operators. After that, I asked Michele Snyder if it would be possible to take a tour of the facility at some point in time, and she offered to take me on a tour right then of the public areas, and we did that. So at the end, there's some video of Michele Snyder taking me on a tour of some of the public areas where you can come and they can pull some of the old paper records for you if you want to do some research and look at those records yourself and put them in your hands. Before you get started, do you guys not allow public participation in these meetings?
Oh, you're welcome to participate. Yeah. We have kind of a discussion after each item, so if you want to throw out a question, you're welcome to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next one, video surveillance files. This is now, again, going to ISD instead of facilities, and I know you've probably seen different buildings are putting in the new cameras and everything. So right now it's 12 calendar days. If there's some kind of court action, if there's an incident, it's offloaded and maintained until all actions are complete. That will be changed. We anticipate updating it to 15 days, but we can't do that until all of the buildings have been upgraded to the new system. So I do anticipate probably later this year at the next meeting we'll change that to 15 days, but for right now, it's 12. Did you have a question?
Well, I just had a question because it looks like there's some ads, but most everything on here is reduction. And so when you said one is statutory or something, reduction, and the video thing, I think would seem to people to make little or no sense. 12 days. I know this says not court, but if you remember Jesse Kramig, who was having tryst with his assistant, the video got deleted from the system that was a court system before anybody had come forward. So I can't understand why you would have such low retention of video.
Well, we're not reducing the retention of that. We're just adding the entire series to ISD's schedule. It did not used to be on their schedule because it used to be maintained by facilities. So we're just adding it with the same retention it's always been. And I mentioned that we're going to increase the retention once we have new software. Right now, it's basically.
But only to 15
it's at
days.
capacity at 12 days currently.
Okay.
And then it'll, anticipating increasing to 15 days once.
And then what's the logic for the reductions in things like contracts?
Well, there's a statute. The statute is 6 years.
I'm sure the statute says for a minimum of 6 years, not that you can only do it for 6 years.
Yeah. And again, we leave it up to every department if they feel like, you know what, Michelle, for us, we have to refer back to these contracts for longer because of whatever reason, then they certainly may. But for this department, they never get back into them after that 6-year period, so that works for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item carries. Item number 3 is the Board of County Commissioners modifications to the general schedule of records retention. And I won't read through all the language that I did previously, but again, this is recommendation of Tom Eichel. The same with deleted emails, we're modifying that to remove the term email exchange dumpster because they use 365 now. It's just different software. It's not called that anymore. And to specify that ISD does not perform a backup of the emails deleted from the user's deleted folder. So if it's deleted and it's deleted from the deleted folder, that does not get backed up. However, as you can see on ISD's schedule, that if an email could still exist in the daily backups for up to 2 weeks. Yes.
So this means if a commissioner or somebody in the commissioner's office deletes an email or they received or sent, and then deletes it from the deleted folder, it's not backed up?
Correct. They're not doing a backup of the deleted.
What would be the logic for that? That would provide a way for a commissioner or a member of the commissioner's office to permanently hide an email.
Well, we can get into email retention a little bit. This is specifying that, again, if you say per your retention schedule, I don't need this email anymore, and you clear out your deleted, you're allowed to get rid of things as they meet their retention, just like any other record. So if I shred my payroll worksheet after 2 years, I don't have to shred it and then keep a backup in case someone wants to see it.
I was just making a statement of understanding of this, that you're saying that this would say that if a commissioner or member of the commissioner's office deleted an email they sent or received, and then went to their deleted folder and deleted it from the deleted folder, there would not be a backup of it.
It could still exist on an active backup.
So that
if
is
ISD had ran
the answer to my question, yes or no, because this just seems like it would allow a backdoor way to get rid of emails.
I don't think it's a backdoor way. I think it's the proper way. You delete something and then you.
I'm sorry, I worked for IBM, Sybase, SAP, and none of them would do this. I'm sorry for speaking for transparency. I don't know what you were saying.
Well, I mean, how much back and forth do we want to have? And
You probably don't want to have any, as I can tell. But my question, I think, is a legitimate question. The citizens have an interest in these records. I'm the only citizen here that's not getting a government paycheck. I appreciate you allowing me to ask questions. I asked politely before the meeting began if that was going to be permitted. So I don't appreciate that instead of addressing intelligently and having an interaction of something I raised, that instead you start attacking me.
Well, it's not an attack.
Chris, you know, the only time, just to talk about deleted things, the only time I would go in and do something, delete is like if I get something that has we get all kinds of things.
I'm not insinuating that you do it. I'm
No,
not
no,
insinuating.
I'm just
My
telling you.
point is that it's probably
Yeah.
wrong to allow a backdoor way for a member of the commissioner's office to completely hide any record of an email they sent or received. So I appreciate you letting me ask questions.
Are we ready to approve the general schedule modifications? Do we have a motion to approve?
Yes. Motion to approve, I'll approve it.
Second.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jennifer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item carries. Item number 4. This is the dog warden animal shelter modification to the schedule. So we haven't done this in a few years, and it was with new software. It was time to to make some modifications here. So this is a recommendation of Kiara Swartz, the administrator for the Clermont County Animal Shelter, to approve the following modifications. So we'll get into that here. So we have a database called Shelter Love. So some of these are going to be encompassed as part of that system, the adoption applications, the case files. Previously, some of the records that you'll see we're removing were, again, when they were paper files, they were separate categories, but now that they're part of the software, they're all in there together. So we're gonna add the adoption applications. Retention is permanent currently in Shelter Love, and then we're adding case files, Shelter Love database with retention of permanent. Again, permanent is never ideal for records that don't have long-term value, 500 years carved in stone. However, they're looking into if there's a retention module for the software and things like that. At this point, we don't have that answer. So just to get the schedule together, we're going to approve it as is. And then in the future, if we find, there's a retention module and, the records can be removed at a certain point, we will update the schedule. We're adding a record for the dangerous fishes designation at 15 years, just to cover the life of the animal. We're also adding volunteer records with 3 years after service as a retention. And then the following 3, those are all removed, again, because now they're included as part of the case file record series. Are there any questions on the dog board and animal shelter schedule modifications? All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make the motion to approve as written today with
Thank you.
respective changes that we will be putting on.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Masha. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Okay. Item 4.
Michelle, thank you so much for working with us to get that updated. It was a
Yeah,
good
no
project.
problem.
It's just like.
Angie, can I get a comment from you on the changes to the intake, the records for
thank you.
the
No
animal
comment.
shelter?
No comment, thank you.
I just want to know how it changes the intake reports for purposes of what
All of our
prior
records
people
are
had
on
to do.
Shelter Love, as Michelle indicated. So, yep.
So what does it change?
No further
Prior. Okay, thank you. Claire, can I ask you a question about the shelter records?
What about them?
So I didn't know how I tried to ask Angie, but she wouldn't answer.
Okay.
How this intake record removal changes, prior operators, when they were independent operators, had to prepare a weekly intake report for the commissioners
Okay.
that then I could request, the public could request copies of those intake and whatever it's called, redemptions or output, okay?
We have-
And I don't
we
know
have
what
a
this
list.
means.
We have a list of it. We get an update.
A weekly update like before?
I believe it is weekly, because I get it straight from the shelter. I do. I'm trying to think. I really believe it's weekly.
Okay.
Every dog that comes in and out is adopted, whatever's going on.
Okay, I don't know the details, but I know after it went to government control, the reporting became a lot less. So when I've never requested it, I don't think, but like when people like Rick Barron have requested it,
Okay.
the reporting from the shelter became less. So I just didn't know the impact of these changes of removing the intake records reports.
They're still included
Yeah.
in the case files.
Yeah.
That was the point of me mentioning that. So those records are still there. They're just part of the case.
Well, there's a
file.
difference between individual case files and a one-page summary of
Oh,
every
one-page
week.
summary.
Well,
That's
we
what was required previously was a
receive it. We
a
receive
summary every week of intake and out. And
I don't
it's not
know.
called redemptions. It says whatever it's called when somebody adoptions or, because there's also transfers.
Redeeming or adoption or?
So,
I don't know if we get them weekly or bi-weekly, but I do receive them.
okay, and then,
I hold on to them.
Okay, okay. All right, item number 6, the county prosecutor modification to schedule. So this is just recommendation of Mark Jacoby, the prosecutor, to approve the following modification to their schedule. It's just one here. We're just changing statistical reports. We're modifying it from permanent to until no longer of administrative value. This is something that just works better for them. They don't have, and Jason, you might be able to speak a little bit more on it than I can, but they don't have a standalone statistical report that has permanent forever value to them anymore, so we're just.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all that entails. I think my understanding there were we were keeping track of things that were being kept track of.
Yeah,
There were
basically,
multiple
right,
copies
right,
of various tables and
yeah,
forms and what we filed and things, so we're trying to not duplicate our work.
right.
So what you're saying is when I ask for stats, you're just wiping me off the
That's
record?
right.
Okay, all right, I get it.
Okay, do we have any other questions about the prosecutor's changes?
No.
Who defines what means no longer, until no longer of administrative value?
The record holder, the record holder for that office.
So this goes from that those records would exist forever, that citizens or others could get access to them, to Mark DeCalvey can now decide when it's no longer of value and delete it?
Well, again, like we were saying, with this report, I think possibly back in the day, before computer systems, there was a specific annual report that was made.
Is the answer to my question yes or no?
Anymore.
So I think the answer to my question is yes. It means that they can just delete it when they decide they don't want it anymore. I think this is all problematic. In an era where the world is retaining more and more and more data, so far I've seen on here just reductions in data, or giving the holder of the data more right to delete it without any oversight. I think that's problematic in a world. And I know I might be the only citizen that's attended one of these meetings in forever, but I don't know if when you guys sit here and you're all just government people, if you ponder that in today's world, reducing retention of things is problematic. And giving what is the cost? See, in the world that I came from, there would have been analysis of what is really the cost of retaining them permanently versus allowing them to be deleted. Frankly, typically it takes more effort to delete them. It takes more cost because it's easier just to retain stuff nowadays when, terabytes of data are dollars.
Were there any other questions for the prosecutor's schedule?
No.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, and item number 9, the county sheriff, modifications to the records retention schedule. This is a recommendation of Christopher Stratton, county sheriff, to approve the following modifications. Fingerprint records, we're modifying that to update the retention from maintained as part of the criminal case jackets to permanent. The sex offender records, again, instead of maintained as part of the criminal case jackets, those are permanent. Those are their own standalone record categories, and a lot of that is in the offender watch database as well. The arson registration record is the same thing. We're going to modify the retention from maintained as part of the criminal case jackets to its own standalone permanent category. Violent offender records, we're adding that. It falls in line with the sexual offender records and the arson, but it was part of the criminal case jacket, so again, we're making sure that is accounted for on its own. We are going to add a retention for narcotics files with 60 years as retention. The Celebrite downloads are 10 years, the Impress Fund records are 3 years, and the monthly agent statistics are 5 years. Those are additions.
I noticed that the only one that seemed to expand everywhere, the requirements, was the sheriff's office.
All right.
Pretty much, it's multiple things I can't understand from looking at it, but went from permanent to permanent, whereas other things like the prosecutor's office gave them an out for destroying records. I'm here with Michele Snyder, and you are the director of
the county's record center.
Of the County Record Center, and she offered after the meeting I just attended to take me on a quick tour of the public area of the Record Center, so let's go.
Yeah, these are the historic records for the county. So you can see all the old journals here. The oldest record would be from 1799, and it's original deed record.
Okay.
But tax duplicate records, court records, deed records, commissioner journals. So these are all in here up through probably about 1950. I think we have a couple from 1970.
Now, have a lot of these records also been scanned or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or?
a lot of them have. You can see that some of them are wrapped in paper because they're very fragile. But a lot of them have been scanned, and we have an open book scanner, and we continue to scan the records that are highly accessed, which are the tax duplicates. So people want to know the history of their house. They want to
you said you had the oldest record in Clermont County somewhere in this room?
Yeah, I probably
It's hidden.
can't point it out. But it would be a land record. A land record, a deed from 1799. William Lido, I know you recognize that name. So.
Okay.
But again, all of these records are.
Now this would not. Oh, that's Judge. So this includes court records in here also.
Includes some court records. Again, this is not all inclusive. Some records still are maintained at the individual departments, but we do have a large amount here.
Now, are there records that are like old but computerized records that are kept anywhere? Or is there any of this kind of concept like old tapes or old?
Microfilm.
Old microfilm.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in IBM, there would be like tapes, old tapes,
Okay.
and they had to be like climate controlled, stored in
Right,
certain ways to
yeah.
have because they would break down over time. Okay.
So when the public wants to do research on their house or
So this area, the
apartments-
public can come in here and they
So-
come in with escorted, that somebody make sure they don't
Yeah, so,
steal.
well, what happens is they can look at records in the lobby and they'll let us know what they're looking for, and we'll pull the books for them. Just
Okay.
To make sure, as you can see, they're very fragile and.
Okay, and is there like a area where if I came in here looking for a record and asked you to pull it for me, where I would, like at this table here, they would just come here to look at it, or you
Usually
put them in a
lobby.
room?
Usually
Okay,
in the
there's a
lobby.
room you would take them to.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I think it would be important that nobody was
it's
left
just-
free to roam in here.
Yeah, and we can't exactly barcode these specifically, so if it gets pulled off.
So does the
we know
county
where to
use
go back.
off-site storage places? Like when I was in business, there were companies that did off-site storage
Yeah,
of
that's
records.
actually the industry I came from, but no, that's why they built the record center. So we house all the archival records here.
Okay.
And then we hold them until they're ready to go for the retention schedule, and then they get shredded.
So does here do, I'm just going to pan around, does here do computerized records? Or this
We
is just
do have-
physical
we do have
records?
digital records too. We do scan records. We have a very small staff here. We're very efficient. We do scan records and house digital records as well.
Okay. So but is there like a computer room here where you have digital stuff, or is that done by an
Oh, I see.
offsite?
ISD manages backups. So that would
Okay.
mean like servers and backups. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.